All right. Hello, everybody. I'm a little bit blocked by the camera, but I hope to see you while I'm speaking. Um, Today, Baruch Hashem, Odol Adonai Kitov Kelom Chazdo. I happened to be running to the hospital for the last 3 days, and a family member had this surgery, and we spoke about the detox a lot, and this is one of these occasions where you realize how toxic our environment is, particularly when you come to hospitals where a lot of sick people are lying in emergency rooms and there's no rooms available, and people come with different conditions. And a testament to one's health is ability to survive these environments. Health is not how much muscle you've built. Health is not how good you look. Health is your ability to survive critical situations. Now, I lost my voice because of Israel. I went to Israel to the wedding, so it has nothing to do with, I was trying to speak over very loud music, so forgive my voice crackling here. But today we're going to discuss an important topic that has to do with uh, health, has to do with our ability to survive. There's a winter outside, and happens to be a terrible conditions on the ground. There's a lot of ice. People can trip, fall. They can have exposure to cold. They could not measure correctly what their tolerance for cold is, and they can venture out not dressed properly and whatever. And they don't understand their body's tolerance. Particularly if they're sitting at home for a long period of time. In the winter, they're hibernating. And it's okay. In winter, we hibernate. Then going out, people will miscalculate whether shoveling snow, whether it can hurt their wrist or their arm or their back, or exposure to cold, or inability to control or balance themselves. It's a neurological condition. If people do not exercise regularly and do not put their weight on one foot or the other regularly, so when it comes to balancing yourself, let's say one foot slips, another foot has to support. People usually fall. They'll break something. They'll pull a muscle. They'll pull a ligament, and they can end up immobilized for some period of time. And now the situation worsens because the person is immobilized. He's afraid to go out. He can't shovel snow. He's sitting at home and eating usually sugars and carbs and watching Netflix, right? So, and it's a compounding effect in the winter. So the winter is a period of survival. In the winter, you're supposed to survive. And for ages and ages, people knew, indigenous people, that you have to bulk up before winter. You have to gain some weight, some fat. And the fat layer was very important. Marriages were broken, or shidduch was refused if the woman was not uh, fat enough. I say fat, literally fat. It was a point of pride for women to be fat. It's in the Mishnah. Mishnah in Shabbat talks about different items that women can go out with in a place when there's no eruv, and that Mishnah says that there's different decorative items the women wear, and some she may and some she may not go out with. One of them is peanochrit, a shaitel, a wig, and the other one is called chanaka or chanaka, something that they would use today we call it a choker. Our jewelers will refer to a certain necklace as a choker. And the name choker was because it was choking a woman. Why was it choking a woman? Because Gemara explains that this was to show a double chin. If the woman didn't have a double chin, she would tie a choker, or chanaka, or ribbon, or anything, and it would push up her chin up, and would be double chin created, showing a little bit of fat. She had no resources. She didn't have much food, but in order to be a good marriageable, candidate, she would have to show some fat, because the mother that did not have enough fat, she could not give birth to children. She could not survive the winter. She needed to have resources. If the mother gives birth to a child, it's at least a 2-year process. starting with the beginning of pregnancy, 9 months, and 2 years after. And Gemara says specifically, for 24 months, the woman does not get pregnant because she has a hormonal changes. She's creating hormones, particularly prolactin, which is a milk producing hormone. And while she is breastfeed, she doesn't get pregnant. It's the way the nature constructed the woman's body that she does not get hit second time with pregnancy, and is able to recover. It takes 2 years for her to recover, and at the same time have enough resources to feed her her child.
Also, the menstrual cycle doesn't come back while she's feeding.
Right. So all the estrogen and progesterone change in their levels, and prolactin in presence. Prolactin, women do not get pregnant. So prolactin is a hormone that creates your milk. There's a separate class that should be given on this. This room should also be filled with women, because women are the foundation of health of the household. They're the ones that cook your meals, they take care of the children, and it's very important for you not just to listen, but pass it on to your wives and say, let's research this and that and see where we end up. Because a lot of women today do not understand basic female health. They use different products that doctors will suggest in order to prevent pregnancy. It could be pills, it could be IUDs, it could be hormonal treatments, and all of that are detrimental for a woman's ability to detox and achieve optimal health. Optimal health for a woman is to be able to breastfeed with the natural milk and not with formula, which is 5% glucose, and to be able to regulate hormonally and have enough resources of fat in order to sustain all the body demands. For instance, women gain fat when they are premenopausal or go onto the menopause. They usually gain weight. Why do they gain weight? Because body uses fat as estrogen. As estrogen goes down, the levels of estrogen, body fat increases to increase the stores of potential estrogen for a woman. So, but it's a different topic. So what I want to talk about is more on the winter hibernation and preservation of heat. We're going to talk about fat as the ways to breathe and the ways to thermoregulate. Thermoregulation is one of the most important things that you need to have in the winter. If you can't thermoregulate, you could be exposed to something. You can come down with colds, with infections, with all metabolic things that can happen in the body, negative metabolic things that depend on fat. Your immunoglobulins, your steroidal hormones are all made from fat. And therefore, fat is important to be present in the body of the person wintertime without any exceptions. I don't care what diet you follow, you have to have fat to survive. Because if there's no fat, there's no production of hormones, there's no production of heat. Thermoregulation depends on fat. Rambam tells us in the Mishnah Torah, in Halachot Deot, Perek Dalet, B'yemot hachama ochel ma'achalim hakarim. In the summer days, person should eat cool or foods that have cooling effect. V'lo yarbe betavlin. You shouldn't eat too many spices. V'chol et hachometz, and you should prefer vinegar or vinegar based, like vinaigrettes. Vinaigrette salad is a good choice for the winter. B'yemot hagshamim, that means winter. In Israel, it's called B'yemot hagshamim, winter, rainy season. Ochel ma'achalim achamim. He eats cholent. You eat meats, cured meats, all these good stuff. The briskets, smoked meats. Umarbe betavlin, and you use spices because that heats up your body. Ve'ochel miat min hachardal, and you eat also a chardal, which is mustard. Min hachiltit, and chiltit is asafoetida, which is a famous spice. It's used in India and in Middle East. Asafoetida is very curative agent. Many people don't know about it. Chiltit or asafoetida. Ask any Yemenite; they'll tell you about chiltit and chilbe and all the good stuff that they eat and prolongs their life. Yemenites are one of the longest living Jewish tribes, I think. They're very strong to the old age. Teimanim and chazakim. Ageza teimani chazak. They look younger and they're very functional till the old age, and that's because of the diet primarily. because they use a lot of spices and a lot of micronutrients in the foods. Schug and all the peppers, right? So I have pictures here. So if you want to research these two very important spices, don't use American mustard, yellow mustard. Use natural mustard. I have mustard seeds. I make my own mustard. It's very easy. You just put the seeds in with the water with a little bit of sugar, and you can cook it on fire, and you can have your own mustard in seconds. You can add whatever spices you want. You don't have to buy expensive stuff in the store. We mentioned this Gemara. Gemara says on the famous pasuk in Mishlei, "Atzinim pachim bederech ikesh, shomer nafsho yirchak mehem." The cold and heat is in the hands of God, in the hands of Hakadosh Baruch Hu. I'm sorry, it's the hands of man. God governs everything else, but He warns us about cold and heat, that a person may be negligent in his exposure, whether to cold or to heat. And if he's negligent, then it's not on God, it's on him. So tzinim pachim b'derech ikesh shomer nafsho yirchak mehem. One who's careful about his health should stay away from any extremes of cold or heat.
You have the Wim Hof on the other page, so I assume you'll do a cold plunging, right?
Well, partially, but in a way that we will integrate it into everything else. So what does it mean? So the Rambam says that somebody does not take care of his health, where he knows something that he does is negligent towards his health of any of his systems. So Rambam calls this person shofech damim. Such a person gets a term of shofech damim. He spills his own blood because he's obviously needs to take care of it. He doesn't take care of it. It prolongs the suffering, and eventually the body will succumb to whatever the ill effects of the disease. So it's important to know what are the tzinyum pachim. So today, you ask your local rabbi or doctor or whatever, and I say, okay, what are the tzinyum pachim? What should I be careful about? And they'll probably not going to be. Oh, they say exercise, eat a balanced diet. Now, every doctor will say eat a balanced diet. Your rabbi won't have a clue what tzinyum pachim are. Say don't get a cold. Put on a hat, like a Jewish version of put on the scarf, you'll catch something, that. But today we know the world is a lot more complex. We know a lot more, and therefore tzinyum pachim can have much greater gamut than before. There is also a concept of shomer pitim Hashem. Shomer pitim Hashem means a fool or petty or naive person gets a certain special protection from God. That if he missteps, if he does not do the right thing, God protects him in a way. Meaning, if I don't know better, right? I'm walking through the world and I don't know better, God protects me. Meaning, there's no other protection. If I know and I'm negligent of it, then there's no protection. I know. I was informed and I consented. And I said, okay, I'll do it anyway. I remember first time we was in Eretz Israel, and I know all the old city and the shuk and the Arab shuk also. I know very well. The first time we went to Israel, me and my wife, for the first time, it's very exciting. So we landed evening time and we went to the Kotel at night. And we went to the Kotel at night, we davened, and the Kotel was very, very inspirational for the first time. And because I was so inspired, I said to my wife, let's take a walk. Let's take a walk through the old city of Jerusalem, right? I thought I'm like Arabian Nights, So we started walking, and we were walking and walking and walking, and we see a couple of soldiers on the patrol, and they see us and they say, "What are you doing here?" I'm like, "We're walking through Jerusalem. We're walking." He says, get out of here right away." He says, "This is the Arab side of the Jerusalem. You don't know where you are. Get out. Take this street and go all the way." He says, "This is very dangerous." This is, and we didn't realize. To me, Jerusalem is Jerusalem, but I was what's called petty, and Shomer Pitim Hashem means that I was protected, at least up to that point, when the soldiers told me it's not safe, right? So the same thing here. Knowledge comes with responsibility. If you know something, you have to be responsible enough to do something about it. So, level of research that you have to put in, it's up to you. How much do you want to know pertaining to your situation, to your health, and to your resources? Okay. Um, Northern people of all sorts are known to consume tremendous amount of fat, lipids of all sorts, animal fat. I'll give you a little bit of background. One of the biggest genocides that ever happened in the history of the world in a peacetime, not wartime, peacetime, is destruction and genocide of northern people, both on the American side, on the Alaskan side, and Canadian side, and Russian side. When these newly formed countries, United States, Canada, Russia, is a fairly new countries. They're not old countries. They're all new countries. They brought in New World Order. And when they faced American Indians or again, same variations of the northern tribes, which are also Indian in their complexity and origin, they tried to Americanize or Russify them more, bring the Western diet to those lands. Post office was working. There was delivery of food to far reaches of the country, and a lot of Inuits and Chukchas, the Russian northern people, Evenkas, they got exposed to Western diet. And what Western diet did is basically killed in droves, in hundreds of thousands every year. These northern population, northern tribes. Why? They lived in a harsh environment. It's a minus 40 regular day. It's minus 70 in some parts of Russia, and they stopped eating fatty foods. They said, "What are you doing?" Communists came and said, "What? You eating whale? You're going hunting whale, and you're eating seal, and you're eating the narwhal? You crazy? You have to eat. You have to eat pechenye. You have to eat carbs and whatever's in the store. You have to. They didn't understand health well at those days, and the inception of the Soviet. They improved later, but since they didn't understand, they thought it was very primitive, and they have to wean these people off from their primitive ways of hunting whale and eating raw meats and so on. I have example of the whale meat, muktuk. It's called muktuk. It's the skin of the whale or narwhal with some. It's raw. It's eaten raw. Um, and northern people survived on this. They didn't have vegetation. They didn't have anything except for these meats. And these top layer of the dermal layer of the whales, which are mammals, contain not only fat, but they contain all the fat soluble vitamins and minerals. They have all these minerals in their body because they eat different crustaceans, and these micronutrients end up in their fat, in their skin. And when consuming them, they had all 20 amino acids. They didn't need anything else besides it. Um,
Is that why they use their fats for perfumes and expensive clothes?
that's a different story. Yes, it's related, but right now we're talking about how they regulated their heat. On the average day, a Chukcha or Eskimo would go out hunting, and he would take his dog sled, or he would take his deer sled or whatever, and he would go out to a tundra, or Siberian tundra. Siberian tundra, you have blizzards that will cover. You have no visibility. What they operated on, because their brains were so saturated with fat, they had absolute GPS navigation in their heads. Average Eskimo can find his way home at age 70. He can go hunting and find his way home in an absolute blizzard where he can't see anything, but every little detail he remembers. This was a tree over here. There was a little mountain peak over there, and he finds his way back home. When Russians and Americans introduced Western foods, they started getting symptoms of amnesia and memory loss and other things because now sugars started coming up to their brain. Instead of a good fat, it was saturated with sugar, and the sugars made them forgetful. It's a fog, right? When you eat too much sugar, you get a fog. You get, you know, I think a colibri, colibri, the bird. the bird lives on sugar. Why is it keeping colibri?
Do you have sugar?
I had sugar. Yeah, that's what it is. So the animals that eat glucose primarily live on glucose. There's primarily like small birds, insects. They live on glucose, and that's a primary energy source for them. It's also a source for us. We love sugar. Body will take sugar over anything else because everything else takes longer to break down, to digest, to metabolize. Right. So the fats are not easy to metabolize. Fats need to be broken down. That's why we have bile, we have a gallbladder, and these fats are heavy. But when they're broken down, they break down into fatty acids or phospholipids, and then they're utilized all over the body. Um, when they got back on their diet, because the Russians and Americans realized they're killing people for no reason, and I think it was like a staggering number, like 5 million around the world died just getting off of the natural diet because their bodies were not built for carbs, they were built for fats. Now, if you're going to start eating their diet, you're probably not going to do too well because you don't have enough stores of bile to break down all that fat and so on. But they do, and as soon as they went back on the diet, they started gaining back in numbers, and now even the United Nations allows them to hunt whale. There's quotas of how many whales they can hunt. Japan doesn't care at all. Japan is their national survival is whale. They make everything out of it. You can buy whale in Japan. It's I think only country where you can walk into the store and buy yourself a piece of whale skin, whatever blubber, and
We're not allowed
eat
to
it.
eat it,
No, it's a trafe animal, but I would say for medicinal purposes, you could use it. Japanese were obviously in the forefronts of survival because of they got nuked a couple of times, so the population was dying rapidly, and they needed to find all the restorative nutrients that were available. Ginkgo biloba was one of them. The ginkgo tree blossomed the same year that we bombed them. Ginkgo tree blossomed. Ginkgo is an amazing product. It speeds up all the restorative functions of the filtration in the body, in the spleen, in the liver, in the kidneys. It does it within a month as opposed to like 3 years. Your fats, by the way, these filtrations are built of fats primarily. And surfactant that we mentioned last time, it's the only thing through which you breathe. Without fat, you cannot breathe. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of doctors don't know that. When was the last time doctor said, eat more fat, you'll breathe better? There's no such thing. They don't tell you. But that's how you breathe. You breathe through surfactant. You have a lungs, you have a bronchus, you have a bronchioles, and it ends up with the little sacs on the bottom called alveolar sacs. And alveolar sacs have a coating of fat called surfactant. And that surfactant has to be very good quality fat in order to not clog, but allow CO2 and oxygen exchange. In fact, a good, yeah.
So how come fatter people it's very hard to breathe for them?
Okay, so fat that's deposited in the body, it's a sugar fat. Eskimos are not fat. They're very skinny and trim, and all they eat is fat. So fat will never make you fat. The least of all things we consume that makes you fat is fat, or lipids. Sugars and carbs can make you gain weight much faster, or muscle weight, or fat as a deposit of extra sugar. Nobody gets fat, like tremendously fat, unless they eat sugar. But lipids, regular lipids, you can be very trim. Most people that are on a carnivore diet are built and skinny, and they're doing fine.
You think that's healthy, carnivore diet?
Carnivore diet is what primarily your body uses. Yes, the God, by building your body in a way that it can only metabolize primarily meat and milk, basically told you that vegetables is not the way to go. We're not cows, we can digest vegetables, and that's why your children hate vegetables. People abuse their children by forcing them to eat vegetables. I did it. I'll admit, when I didn't know, I said, you got to eat your vegetables. And the entire America is fighting like how to make children eat vegetables, what to do with them. It's a broccoli, and the child doesn't want to eat it. And the parents are, you got to eat it. It has vitamins in it. No, it doesn't. Probably that broccoli doesn't have vitamins to begin with. And even if it does, if the child doesn't want it, it's because the child's body is being built. And the child's body needs to be built from proteins, from fats, not from vegetables. Vegetables don't build your body. There's nothing in the vegetable that can build your body unless it has protein. Let's say wheat, breads, legumes. They have some protein. So that, but it's a vegetable protein. It's not an animal protein. And there's a huge difference. We're going to discuss it on the other side. A huge difference on the type of protein you're consuming, or type of fat you're consuming. Okay, and people are ignorant of that. And therefore they have breathing issues. People have breathing issues because the surfactant is comprised of oils, primarily vegetable oils in which the food is cooked in a Chinese restaurant. And when we consume these foods, our lipids come from the vegetable source. Now, vegetable source of lipid is not the best source. Everybody says seed oils. What's wrong with seed oils? What's wrong with seed oils? Because the process is a very corrosive, it's an oxidative process. They treat it with heat, they squeeze out this oil. It's not natural, it doesn't come out naturally. That's why olive oil is very good for you, because naturally occurring, you can squeeze it out easily and it comes out of the olives. So olives has a lot of polyphenols, it has good stuff in it, a lot of omega 3, omega 6, good balance. But other oils, you have to really bang it, crush it and produce oil this way. It cannot be healthy. Your body doesn't know how to metabolize oxidated oils, or what's called rancid oils. So since we only breathe through our lungs, your surfactant is very important. And the Torah says many places where the God puts the breath in the man. We're breathing only through, one source is our nostrils, our mouth. We put in the air into our lungs, and that's the only way we can get the most vital nutrient in our body, which is oxygen, right? Now, it's not just oxygen, so CO2 as well. For instance, if you blew off a lot of oxygen, you would have problem hyperventilating, right? People who are anxious and they blow off oxygen, they hyperventilate. What's a cure for hyperventilation? What they do? A bag, right? And you breathe your own air, meaning your own CO2, and you're putting more CO2 into your blood, right? It's kind of counterintuitive, right? I need oxygen, not CO2. I'm off-gassing CO2. I'm putting in oxygen. No, it's a fine balance. And that balance, that membrane that cannot be permeated or fully clogged, which is called surfactant, that's what facilitates proper exchange of oxygen and CO2. So your blood has to have some degree of CO2 in it. It cannot be just all oxygen. CO2 has to be, there's acidity and alkalinity, and it has to be a balance. And if a person becomes too acidic, he can die from acidosis. If it becomes too alkaline, he can die from alkalosis. Your blood has to be a perfect 7.35 and dash 7.45 pH. If the blood goes a little bit above, a little bit below that, person dies on the spot. One thing that can kill a person on the spot, shut down every organ, is the blood, God forbid, getting too acidic or too alkaline. If the blood drops to 7, person dies. If the blood goes to 8, person dies. What does the body do? Takes the bone material, which has calcium and phosphorus and magnesium, and puts it in the blood to alkalize the blood. Let's say blood got too acidic. It puts the bone material, robs it from your bone, and puts it into the blood. And now you understand why people break their hip or break their bone. Because the medications that they take leaches the calcium out of the bones, and constantly being acidic from the foods and chips and all that stuff pushes the body to take the material out of the bone and alkalize the blood. Alkalinity means the presence of other minerals in the blood. And that depletes the bone, thins the bone, and the person then falls and breaks the, So it's not always the fall; it's the deficiency of the nutrients in the bone that thins the bone, and most Americans suffer from, that lack of nutrients in the bone. The bone is thin, brittle. It doesn't have what it needs, and most Americans will have osteoporosis and have all kinds of conditions. And for that, they take biologics. That's what we were talking about before. Okay. Okay, let's go to the other side. So, importance of breathing that we discussed also comes with this idea of the pH, right? We actually gas off CO2 as an acidic substance, and we regulate our pH through breath. There's different ways to regulate pH. Our kidneys regulate our blood pH, and using obviously nephrons and nephrology of the kidney in order to regulate that acidity alkalinity, and we use breathing. When you breathe out, you're actually balancing this act. Not only you balance the pH, you also balance your weight. You know that you would gain a lot of weight if you could not breathe. Meaning, if the breathing was not available, when you breathe, you lose weight. CO2 is a carbon. C is the carbon. Your fat is nothing but the carbon chains connected to hydrogen molecules. The entire fat is a carbon chain. And when you breathe out CO2, you're actually breathing out fat in a molecular form, obviously, in the air. That's why when you increase your exercise, you start running, all of a sudden you start shedding pounds. Why? Because now your breathing increases and you're gassing off carbon. Yes.
So I see this very problem in a lot of people. They always sweat. They're always sweating. They don't lose weight. Or people that walk, they barely sweat. Like they can come home perfectly fine. They're losing pounds very quickly.
Mhm.
But at the same time, I thought sweating, like, of course, it's not fat. It's still supposed to help you lose weight. Right?
The people look at sweating as if they're sweating fat off. You can't sweat fat off. If anything, sweat is just water and salts and a lot of nutrients a person loses when sweating. In fact, Rambam has the prescription of remineralizing the body after sauna and after bath, because it was time consuming. In the Russian bath, you go in the banya and you sweat, and it's good because it's detoxing, but at the same time, then they'll spend next 2 hours with a samovar, yeah, drinking tea and replenishing fluids and eating some sweet stuff and whatever, putting sugars back and putting some nutrients back, because that's important. You lost that. And people faint. Many times people faint. They come out of sauna and they faint. Why they faint? Because they lost nutrients, they lost electrolytes. And when people lose electrolytes, that's it. In a hospital, even they sound alarm. If potassium is too low, right away, they give potassium, otherwise a person is gone, right? So sweating is not losing weight. Sweating could be actually stressful if you're exercising in a gym it's lined with rubber, and oxygen level is low, so you become hypoxic. Hypoxic means lack of oxygen to the brain, to the tissues. The body can actually go into the stress mode and actually make you eat more to gain weight, because you put body in a fight or flight. That's why exercising vigorously sometimes is worse than taking a relaxed walk. Relaxed walk is on parasympathetic, and exercising in the gym is sympathetic. Fight or flight always causes more adrenaline, more cortisol flowing in, and that creates belly. It creates your belly fat. Yeah. Um, and that's why it's so stubborn, because it's hormonally dependent. Meaning on the sides you trim, and here you have a belly fat, right? Visceral fat, what's called visceral fat. It's completely different fat than the rest of the body, and that comes from the stress. And many times people exercise themselves into the stress, not out of the stress. So all these formulas that the people adopt are wrong formulas. Yes, they might develop muscles, and you see people with muscles walking around because, yeah, sometimes they abuse some protein that shakes, and they put steroids. Some use steroids and so on in order to gain weight, to gain muscle. and they gain weight the moment they stop exercising. That's what happens to most athletes, right? They're crazy, they exercise, they have caloric intake of 10,000 calories a day, and they push themselves like a Super Bowl, whatever, the football players. And then eventually they retire, and then they're sitting and watching TV. So what happens to all the steroids, right? You create steroids in your body. It's not just synthetic steroids. Your body has steroids. It has a demand for that functionality, and you don't provide it, and they all get fat and usually die before they're 60. They check out. I think statistic is there has not been an athlete who lived past 100 in the United States. They're supposed to be the healthiest, right? They're supposed to have all the doctors and regimens and everything, but they on the salary, right? Actually, I think their contract says that they have to be eating at all times when they're not speaking. They have to be eating because the caloric intake has to be that when they go training, they lose 5,000 calories a day. I don't know, so they have to replenish constantly. So it's an abuse of the body. It's not a health. So that's why walking is what you're made for. You're not made for running. They're animals like goats or whatever. They jump around all the time. They're muscle strength. The animals that give birth, right? The antelope gives birth, and an hour later, the baby is on its feet. How? Because the proteins in the prenatal structure of the animal, as it's carrying the child, all the proteins that are necessary for muscles of the legs are there. And therefore, as a human being, if you're eating the proteins of the animals, then you become stronger. Your legs become stronger. You run faster. If you eat protein of the fish, you might be more flexible, like the fish. Yeah, because these are the structures. It sounds primitive, but that's exactly what it is. You're acquiring those proteins, and you're building your structure from other animals. We cannot make our own protein. Like cow makes its own protein. It eats grass, and it makes muscle. Right? Miracle, right? Because it has enzymes to break down the vegetation into muscle, but you need 4 stomachs for that. If you don't have 4 stomachs, then you have to eat other animals. So we eat other animals, right? Fish, chicken, cow. We eat those in order to get all 20 amino acids to build our own protein blocks. What you are, what you eat, right? If you eat animal fat or animal protein, you'll have solid muscles like an animal. You'll be like a bull, right? But if you eat chicken mostly, whatever, so you'll have a flubby fat. The fats you touch somebody as a good fat, like it's actually called brown fat. There's a name for it. There's a white fat, there's a brown fat, right? So I have brown fat. I'm proud to say I have brown fat, right? And then some people, they're flubby, like a marshmallow, right? So that comes from carbs and some light fats and avocado. They tell you, even ChatGPT will tell you, eat healthy fats. I'm like, what's a healthy fat? Avocado is a healthy fat. Like, why are you telling me to eat healthy fat? What's avocado going to do for my muscles that I have to run for a marathon? I can do it with avocado. I can't do it. I need real fats, real proteins. Okay, we have a bracha. We say it in Motzei Shabbat. We say it in Tfilot. ויתן לך אלוהים מטל השמיים משמני הארץ ורוב דגן ותירוש. HaKadosh Baruch Hu blesses us with the bracha, ויתן האלוהים מטל השמיים, from the dew of the heaven, משמני הארץ, and from the fat of the earth. What's the fat of the earth? Crème de la crème. So what the earth produces, vegetation produces, right? Animals eat from the earth, and then we collect their fat, meaning not just a chef, but also the refined stuff, and we take that fat, and that's the bracha. Bracha is in the fat, in the final, most condensed, nutritionally dense version of that product. So if I make flour from the wheat, solid would be the most preferred, the most pure, no chef, flour. So an animal, it would be choicest parts of the animal, muscle or fat, and in fish would be a fish oil and other fats. So fat is something that gains your energy much faster than going through and chewing through stuff. I mentioned to Barney that when the lions catch a deer, what you see, go look at the nature or whatever channel you watch, and you'll see that they'll consume organs first. They will open up the belly of a beast or whatever they caught, and they will eat liver and intestines first. They eat intestines because they get the grasses that the animal just ate, and it's a probiotic for them. They will consume that. They will eat easier organs like liver and kidneys, and because they're much more dense nutritionally, they have a lot of vitamins, vitamin A and other fat soluble vitamins. They will eat that first because also spoilage, right? They will spoil faster. Meat will last for a couple of days in on the savannah heat or whatever, but organs will spoil. So we'll eat organs first, then they will consume muscle. Some animals don't even consume muscle. The orcas will attack a shark and it will eat shark's liver and it will discard the rest of the shark. It's not worth eating it because metabolically it's going to be taxing on the body to digest all that stuff. So liver is nice and fatty and it's available, bioavailable to the animal. And that's why we have to act the same way. When we in stress, let's say a person doesn't have enough resources, you should go to fats. You should have fish oil. You should have cod liver. You should have these things. When a child is sick, you should not be giving him cookies and pizza and stuff like that, that's taxing on the body. You should have small amounts of fat. Fish oil is very good. Um, so in this regard, God gives you fat as the ultimate food. Yeah.
What would you say is like some of the best foods to eat while a person is still growing physically?
So I mentioned it before. I consider it a form of abuse if the parents put a child on a vegan diet. It's a form of abuse. I don't like any of the um, nutritional fats being put on children. Children have to eat protein. They have to eat fats, uh, fish oils, and other things. They don't have to have vegetables, contrary to popular opinion. If they eat an apple a week, it's fine. If they eat pickles, it's even better because they like pickles. You notice children like pickles more than like fresh vegetables and fruits because pickles are probiotic and they're good, and their body, their intestinal length of the intestines are not very long, particularly babies, right? So it's almost fully filled, particularly when mother is breastfeeds, is almost fully filled with lactose bifidum bacterium. There's nothing else. And as soon as something else is there, the baby gets colicky and has stomach aches. When the child's growing up and is getting used to grains and other foods, by the way, you should not introduce any grains to children until they develop some of the molars. When they develop molars, then they also develop what's called a Thailand, spelled with P, Thailand, but it's pronounced Thailand. It's a oral amylase which breaks down starches, and until the teeth come in, children should not really be eating grains, uh, wheat or anything. For instance, Gemara says,
Even if it's like
yeah. Even yeah. It's better to eat primarily milk products because milk is where all the lactose bacterium comes. So mother's breast milk, and then slowly move it to like kasha, like porridges, and those could be made from some light grains. And then as they grow and the teeth come in, that's why the Gemara says, "En הילד אומר אבא ואמא עד שתואם טעם חיטה." Until he eats grain, he doesn't say mother or father. He's not verbal until he eats grains, right? So by the time he starts eating grains is when he starts speaking, because the grains contain now a different type of nutrients, and that these nutrients being reuptaken develop the brain differently, and the nervous system proliferates differently. But it always has to be kept where the child has access to protein. Boys and girls, particularly in the age when their puberty comes in, so they have to have enough fat because all the steroidal hormones or sex hormones, molecular steroids, they're all made from fat. Steer means fat. So steroidal hormones are fat based, they're not protein based. So when the child or teenager is not given, a boy is not given enough protein and fat, he is deficient. And that's why you have today generation of all the trans and all the variations of hormonally deficient and damaged children. That's what it is. It's a physiological and a mental damage because brain is made of fat, and when you don't give fat, your brain doesn't develop, and the child needs a brain development, particularly when the hormones become active. They rob the body of the fat. Now the hormones need to be manufactured, right? So I'm eating a certain amount of fat. Before it used to be enough, and now it's not enough. You know why? Yeah.
Are they born this way?
What?
Are they born this way?
Who?
These
No, they're not born this way. No, it's absolutely can be. It's fixable. If the mother had a good prenatal diet, didn't expose herself to chemicals and vaccines and other crap that they put in. A pregnant woman should not be getting any.
experiment on it?
Huh?
They experiment on it?
On what?
On transgender?
I don't know what they did, but normal situation should not be where a child does not understand its gender. A healthy child that's fed a healthy diet with a parent that carried the child for 9 months with the proper diet.
That's what I'm
It's
saying.
nobody's born with it. It's all that's a genetic. It's not genetic. Genetic is for you to be healthy. Genetic is for men to be a man and for women to be a woman. There's no yes, there Chazal talk about tumtum and androgynous and all that stuff, and this is a deficiency. It's not genetic. It's deficiency. It's a late bloomer. And what's a tumtum? She'evarav and stumim, or right? Tumtum means that they're covered up. Means it's a late bloomer or late whatever. Possible. A child grew up in poverty, didn't have what to eat, and didn't have
My next door
resources.
neighbor, he was fine. He got married. All of a sudden, it turned out to be gay. And they had to get divorced. So nobody understands it. So they say, oh, the sisters made it. What is it?
The wife wasn't feeding him properly.
Could be. Hungarian people.
Yeah, sometimes there's a social pressure to get married, and the person really is not is deficient in many aspects. Now, testosterone by men is a very important hormone. It's a hormone of aggression primarily. When men have testosterone, they become aggressive. They start speaking back to the children, the chutzpah, in the schools, they'll complain. And that's what the school do. They put him on Ritalin because, he's acting out. We want him sitting straight for 45 minutes, right? You put anybody straight for 45 minutes, it's a jail sentence, right? And the child wants to run around, wants fresh air. He's constantly on sugar. He's roller coastering on sugar. And then you tell him to sit down, and somebody just punched him from the back and he wants to return the favor. And his entire thing. So they ask a boy, why did you hit him? And the boy is looking at the teacher and he says, I don't know, because he's stupid or whatever. He doesn't understand why. Because it's testosterone. Testosterone in general means aggression. It's our job as parents to direct that aggression to a proper channel. So take him to the boxing sect, take him to some fighting club, teach him how to do carpentry, right? These are the things that a boy thrives on. A girl, she has developing motherly instincts. She's developing primary, sexual, maturity she's showing. So engage her in something that's suitable for a woman. Don't send her to a MMA, fight, whatever, to fight, because then you're vulgarizing the becomes vulgar, the physique and everything. I hate when women go fighting in MMA. I think it's not as attractive to see women punch each other in the face. There's no need for it, and society should not be allowing a woman to do unnatural things, just like you shouldn't allow the men to do unnatural things. And we have representation of both, and all of that are basically a deviation from the norm. That's why it's called deviant behavior, right? So yes, testosterone has to be respected, yeah, but it should not be suppressed. It should not be squashed. Children should not be given a lesser diet just because whatever. If a person has an edema and he has a water retention, doesn't mean he should be drinking less water.
What are some natural testosterone?
Also, so all protein-based, meats, anything that meats, organ meats, all of these are testosterone producing. Cholesterol producing, and therefore testosterone producing. Testosterone is 90% cholesterol by weight. So, sorry, there's no such thing. Okay, if you believe that God created the body and that's what I believe, and I hope you do, then you understand the body regulates itself, and your health is primarily what you are right now. Whether you're fat, you're skinny, whatever, under your conditions, under your situation, your stressors, your health is what you are right now. Your hair turned a little gray, that's your stressor. Okay, you have to live with it because you didn't change anything about your life, or you got your health got abused when you were younger, or you grew up in the circumstances of pollution or bad water or chemicals or uh, some injury or whatever. So all of that affects a person, but the body tries to keep him as healthy as possible under circumstances that he has and using the resources that he has, where he lives. Okay. Um,
So then stressors are a big factor.
Stress is a huge factor, but it's not right to call something uh, unhealthy. Let's say if I have extra weight, it doesn't mean I'm unhealthy. What it means is I
You're not using that.
I should change my perimeters of what I eat, the way I live, and how I live in order to get healthier. Let's say if I lived in this basement, I would probably turn hypoxic very quickly. There's not much air coming in. If I didn't keep the windows open, I would start breathing shallow, and I would want to eat some sugar, and I would change my diet to more uh, anaerobic diet. Anaerobic means sugar based, not aerobic, air based, but anaerobic. So I would be couch potato, and my body is lazy, and my body would say, "Okay, what do you need? Two chips and a nice show, and you eat and you gain weight." Now that's my health, the way I want to live. My body provides health. Store some fat, so in case I need something, I have some fat, so I can burn some fat, convert some fat into ketones, and have some energy. Um, and that's why people actually preferred in olden days to have some fat, because in case there's a starvation, there's war, you have some fat to burn. Okay, it's a resource. Wintertime we gain a little bit of weight in order to hibernate. We hibernate, not like bears, but we do hibernate. Russians used to hibernate. You know, Ivanushka Durachok always lived on top of the. He lived on Pechka, right? Why? Why did he live on Pechka? Ah, that's what they tell you. Communists told you that. It was not. He was hibernating. He was living on the Russians would have a big stove in the middle of the house, and usually elderly and children slept on top of the stove to warm their bones in the wintertime. Ivan Shkadorchak was a little bit lazy, so he used the opportunity to sit up there, but he was hibernating. From time to time, a Russian person would come down from the Pichka, and he would drink prastakvasha. It was sitting right there. It's a spoiled milk. It's like kefir or whatever, and he would drink that. Why? To let the bile out, to let some bile out. Otherwise, it would die, from the bile stones. Now, bears can do this for 3 months, no problem, because bears have a substance in their bile called ursa dioxyursacolic acid, and there's a drug today called Ursadol that they give to patients who have a problem releasing the, you know, uh, the stagnation of the bile. So it keeps the bile liquid, and the bears can sleep for 3 months and not have a bile issue or gallbladder issue. But we also have this chemical, ursodeoxycholic acid, but we have a much smaller quantity, like 1/10 of what bears have. But we can hibernate, meaning we can sleep most of the day, get up, eat something, release the bile, and go back on the thing. We just need to drink, and people would venture out. If it's minus 40 outside, where are you going? Unless you're a good hunter and you need to bring some food. But people would use resources they have, preserves, and some meats that they would dry, and whatever, and they would eat minimal diet and sleep most of the time. That's called hibernation. And it's okay. If you have enough fat and you want to sleep and you feel like whatever, that's okay. Wintertime, it's okay because it calms your body, allows the resources to be kept in, and also thermoregulates. You don't have to expend all this energy running outside. Unless you're like me, then I run around in this the entire winter because I thermoregulate very well. I eat fats, I eat meats, I eat at least half a stick of butter every morning. I will eat cod liver. I would eat meats throughout, and fish oil. A lot of fish oil. I eat with spoonfuls of fish oil. I have it like frozen in a thing, and I will eat it and love it. And some people hate it. It's because it doesn't taste whatever. It tastes fishy. But you need to do that in order to maintain. I'm so hot right now, can't even describe. I'm burning up. But yeah.
What about replacing your testosterone with synthetic testosterone? Like
Okay.
a lot of people are using this TRT stuff.
Okay. So if you replace anything synthetic, is not God made, and therefore it does not fit well with. It's a Lego. So in Israel, they sell a lot of this Chinese Lego that doesn't fit into regular Lego. So you buy this and it's off. If it's off by half a millimeter, but it's all you can't build anything from it. So that's your synthetic anything. Synthetic anything is terrible. Natural is your body makes whatever it needs. Okay, so that's you're going into supplementation now. Let's say you want to supplement anything. Let's say you don't make your vitamin C. So you should get vitamin C from natural lemons or oranges or whatnot. Now you say, how many oranges can I eat? I have a cold. I need 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C. Fine. Take ascorbic acid. Take sodium ascorbate. Whatever. Ascorbic is better. Ascorbic acid. Take 2,000 milligrams. Get on top of your cold. Get out of the situation. No problem. But then switch to natural vitamin C, food-based.
And with testosterone, as you get older, it depletes your body. So pay attention to the stress. The body is going under stress. Fight or flight constantly. The body shuts down.
Okay, so anytime.
I mean, it's very hard to get testosterone naturally from 300 to 700 or 800 or whatever you want to be at.
Okay, 1 second.
Like he said, not if you're young, but what if
Your body doesn't give you extra testosterone for a reason. Everything that we eat or drink comes as a food, but when you take vitamins from food or minerals or nutrients from food, they come as a cofactors. They're cofactors to this food. Let's say vitamin C naturally comes with 8 different cofactors. Biflavonoids, vitamin E, vitamin K. It comes as a complex. When it comes as a complex, your body knows what to do with it. It has these handles that I can grab onto, right? That's what body does metabolically. It grabs onto these handles, and each part of the body knows what to do with it. When you down something synthetic, your body says, okay, we have something that's similar to whatever we used to, but it's missing a leg, missing an arm. It's incomplete. In fact, when you do vitamins, does anybody know what vitamins do?
Methylated or not?
Forget methylated.
Methylated?
What is the goal of the vitamin? Say vitamins. What is why do you take vitamins? Substitute what? Of course, we only take vitamins because we can't make them naturally. If we make them natural, I don't have to worry. So it means we have to eat vitamins. But when we eat vitamins, what are we trying to accomplish? Let's say I did not eat vitamin and you ate a vitamin. What's the difference between us? No. You're trying to do something, not homeostasis.
Replacing what you don't have enough of.
Replacing.
Meaning, you're trying to get a benefit out of it.
Main out of 3 nutrient groups, which is proteins, fats, and carbs. Which one is the most important? Proteins, because it's structural. It builds everything in our body. Everything that we create from amino acids, 20 amino acids, is created in the folds, or protein folds, right? Your cells will create protein folds, RNA, mRNA, whatever it is, and they create protein folds, and each protein has a destination. One goes to your eye, one goes to your thing, the hair, ear, and they all have different percentages of components, right? So my skin needs so much collagen, so much elastin, and a little bit of calcium, and a little bit of phosphorus, and a little bit of, right? And it makes my skin. When my skin is dry, it means I'm missing something, and my protein structures are incomplete. Vitamin, listen to this. Vitamin comes in, plugs into protein, just like you put a nitrous onto your car. You know the nitrous? You play a game in the car, you put in the nitrous, and the car goes, right? So vitamin is there to speed up the function of your protein. Now, if the protein is healthy, you combined it and folded it correctly, it will fit like a Lego piece where it needs to go. If it's incomplete, it's deficient, meaning you took synthetic stuff, your food is made by a corporation, and it doesn't lost its natural components, right? Right, or cofactors. And now when it comes in, your body doesn't know what to do with it. So it still builds a protein, but it's missing something. So supplements and vitamins, they're add-ons to the protein structures in order to speed up their function and fix up whatever's there. Let's say if I took vitamin C, that's antioxidant. So if I have free radicals, the vitamin C will donate an electron and eliminate the free radical going around the body and destroying things. That's why vitamin C is so important. According to RDA's of FDA's or whatever suggestions, it's only 35 milligrams of vitamin C a day, where we know a lot more is needed in order to function. Not just prevent scurvy, but you need to have enough in the system to face cold, not to catch anything from anybody, and so on. So
cold exposure.
Cold exposure. So cold and heat exposure. So pasuk says, "מקצה השמיים מוצאו, תקופתו על קצותם, ונסתר בחמתו." Yeah.
Still didn't get an answer to this question.
What's this question?
Testosterone.
Okay, so go.
If you're older, you can't get it.
Conceptually, you don't want to put in the body. My point is that if you're putting something synthetically, you may not know the proportions in which your body needs something. So just adding something to your body, or the body is going to reject it and eliminate it. Let's say if I take too much vitamin C, my body will make my diarrhea and get rid of it. If you put too much testosterone, you will throw your body off. Homeostasis will be broken and you're going to go kill somebody. I don't know what's going to happen, but you're definitely shifting things off. So now if
That's why we prescribe you, say, 500 milligrams per week. Maybe 100 milligrams per week, so you have a balance.
okay, doctors usually don't know what they're doing. So when they give you 50,000 IUs of vitamin D, they don't know what they're doing. They're not giving it to you with vitamin K. They're just throwing some synthetic vitamin D at you. And as soon as they see it in the blood that your vitamin D went up, but then, okay, fine. Tak живите, like live like this. That's not vitamin D. Vitamin D has to come as a complex. It's something that has to benefit you. But if you're going to throw it at the body and then now it's going around and getting attached to your arteries, then people develop heart problems because it gets stuck to the arteries. It's a hormone. Vitamin D is not a vitamin, it's a hormone. It's a very complex hormone. It has to produce from D, it has to go through your skin, through the sunlight, go to 25-dihydroxy, whatever, calciferol, and it goes to vitamin D2, goes to D3, and then eventually becomes available. And it doesn't have K2, it will get stuck in the arteries and it will not get absorbed in the bones. It's a bone vitamin. Vitamin A is the eye vitamin. Vitamin E is the sex hormone vitamin. Vitamin D is a bone vitamin. Vitamin K is the blood vitamin. Right? What should you take? You should eat good food. First, start with balancing your diet with a good food. Natural food, natural source, homemade, no oils and other things.
Everything with it has to be bread with everything. I had good cutlet before. I put bread on it.
Make sourdough bread. Make healthier breads. Eat less of it, and controlled with. Let's say if you just eat bread, your hyperglycemic level is going to jump up quickly. But if you eat with food, you have eggs, you have something, it will dampen it, and it's not going to roller coaster your blood sugar so much. So these are the common sense things that you can do.
If you're low on testosterone, what would you recommend to eat for your diet?
Use it or lose it. You know the concept of use it or lose it? If me and you went out now in the snow and had a fight, do you think you're going to be like all pumped up and right? Right, yes. For the next 3 days, you're going to be dreaming about our fight. Yes? Okay. Why? Because your body says, oh my God, I almost died. I could have died, right? I need something to help me if next time something like this happens. We live in a very pacified life, right? We don't fight. When I was growing up, I used to fight every day behind the school, whatever. Oh, you looked at me strange? I'm going to take you out. And right, we used to have gangs of friends. We used to fight. And that I got good vitamins, whatever. But
Today we got everything GMO.
so we live a life, but as soon as you demand it from your body, you ran a mile, You fought with somebody. All of a sudden, body says, "Oh my God, we don't have enough of that resource. Next time we're not going to make it." So all of a sudden, the meat you eat is going to convert to testosterone. You don't have enough testosterone, not because you're not taking it, because you can't take it because you're not using it. Your body's going to discard it. Your body's going to put it in the fat. Your body's going to say, "I'm sorry, you're not using me." So what if you don't need it? Why should you use it? Right? It's extra. Body does not circulate anything just in case. Body will say, "Oh, you're not using it? I'll turn off this system. I'll turn off that. I'll turn off this, and whatever your existence, from refrigerator to the couch." That's good. Start exercising. Start exercising. That will demand, your body will demand a certain types of food that you have to eat.
I think it's a little bit more than that.
I'll serve you a salad. You go fight MMA, and I'll serve you salad every day. You're gonna be like, "What? What am I doing?" You can't eat salad, right? Why? Because your own body is gonna say, "Give me something substantial. I'm not going out in the ring to fight." It's impossible. You're losing blood. You're losing. You have injuries. Your cells have to be rebuilt. Everything requires double lipid layer of your cells, your protein structures, your sinews, your muscles. Everything has to be built from protein. If you're not eating protein,
I have a question. If you have, let's say, low testosterone, right? But you have the production of testosterone.
That's why I looked at your
It can mean a lot of things. I feel like.
let's say I'm naturally. Everybody has weakness in the strength, right? Weakness in the strength. I touch him and he doesn't jump up because he's strong, he's confident. His nervous system is intact. There are people you poke like this and they jump up, right? True? Okay. Same thing with testosterone. I naturally produce high levels of testosterone. I'm built this way from the childhood. I did sports. I was a professional swimmer. I competed. I did. So when I came here to America, I said, okay, I went to issue. I said, these are not men. Right? Honestly, like you look around any yeshiva, there's a pacified, some sampling of whatever. That's why you talk about gays and talk about all these deviations, because the men are not trained to be men. Most yeshiva guys are not trained in carpentry or fight behind the school or anything like that. They learn the bookworms, whatever. So the easy pickings for any Muslim kid that wants to come across and make trouble, yeah, because he's full of testosterone. All he is doing is fighting in his head, and then he wants to fight in reality in life, right? Unless you show greater strength, they have to see. The men stare each other down, correct? True? I look at someone, yeah, if he turns away, okay, I got him, right? Okay, it's true. Animal kingdom is the same thing. The alpha male comes in, everybody turns away, okay, he's the alpha male. Doesn't matter what size, doesn't matter whatever. He's got the potential, he's ready to fight, he knows he's gonna carry all the way, right? So it doesn't matter the size of the muscle. Now, if you're naturally producing more testosterone, then you're inclined to have that ability. So maybe you should curb it. Let's say if it's too much, you're having too many fights, you're constantly fighting with your wife or whatever. So you know what? Go relax, have a cigar, have a drink. Talk to men about some things. Go see a fight in a ring, right? It will get some of this energy out of you, and or do push-ups, whatever. But there are men who don't have enough, so they have to add. How they add? Go do the same activities. Go with your buddies, right? You may not enjoy beer drinking and fight as much as they do, but you'll get some of it, right? Something will get stuck to you, and then you'll come to your wife and say, I want shashlik. I want good stuff, right? And then he's a better man. He's a better husband.
You'll really get your ass kicked.
Listen, no, you better man and the better. But seriously, most of the problems, the men, it's hard. It's hard to imagine a man refusing a woman, right? A woman says, "I want you," and the man says, "I'm too tired." You know what's speaking in him that says, "I'm too tired," right? He doesn't have a blood flow. He doesn't have enough blood pressure. It's all blood pressure based, right? If I can't carry myself, I can't run for a mile. I can't perform for 15 minutes or whatever. I don't have a blood pressure. So then I'm going to give up right now. My body's already telling me you can't do it, right? So these are important markers. And from there, you understand what you need to eat, what you don't need to eat. if I have plenty of testosterone, then I don't need to have another helping of the thing on the spit. But if I don't, yeah, increase it.
Let's say somebody's got high blood pressure, right?
Yeah.
Think there's a reason for that high blood pressure?
High blood pressure.
Doctors giving medication.
First of all, who says there is high blood pressure? Because if they artificially, doctors are bringing down numbers artificially, then everybody's going to have it's a high cholesterol. It used to be 250 was normal, and now it's 190 or whatever. Yeah.
Some people check their blood pressure.
What is the normal blood pressure when you're in the gym and you're lifting weights? What is your blood pressure when you're lifting weights? No. Jumps up for that second. Jumps up to like 300. Your arteries are flexible enough to dilate to accommodate lifting 200 pounds of weight. But if it constantly goes on, it's not good, right? But your arteries are capable. So blood pressure means that there's a lack of perfusion. You don't have enough perfusion, and therefore your body is demanding something, right? So the body will push the blood pressure regardless of what medication you're on. Your kidneys command the blood pressure. Your kidneys will need, because of the pH and all the functions the kidneys do. Akash Baruch Hu is called we say Rosh Hashanah Kippur, Bochen Klayot Valev. He's the inspector of kidneys and heart. Kidneys are above the heart. Kidneys command the heart what blood pressure to provide, because you need perfusion. A body cares that you don't faint. Not to faint means the blood has to go up all the way to the head, has to be available. So if you bend down and get up and you get dizzy, it means that the perfusion is a problem, right? So blood pressure has to be there. It's going to be elevated. Doctors say, oh, but it's going to destroy your kidneys. It's constantly, yeah, but if you're constantly in a stressful situation, so reduce your stress. Your food could be different, your relationships could be different, and everything will come down. Everything will normalize. But if you are artificially bringing it down with the drugs, and then next time you need that perfusion, in fact, if you fight under those conditions, you will blow off your oxygen, and you can faint. And the person that faints is the person that lost the fight, right?
What if you're consistently doing this stress and you're used to it and you enjoy it at this point?
Yeah. What about it? You conditioned yourself, right? So it means that. Yeah, they are, but it doesn't mean it's not wearing off on you, but it means that you have more tolerance. You're right. If that's your strength, let's say climbing mountains is your strength, and you're okay with that, then that's your strength. It means that you can put more onto that system of your body than other systems. Let's say you could be afraid of dogs, but not afraid of heights. Yeah? You can climb mountains. Like I get nauseous in the car, but I don't get nauseous in the plane. I don't know why. If I'm not driving the car, I get nauseous. Right? So every person has to figure out their own weakness and strength and act accordingly. Well, all we're doing is creating systems for each person to apply personally to themselves, and enable them to perform at the ultimate level. I will mention this pasuk here. Miksei Hashamayim Motzao. It's talking about the sun. The sun comes from the edge of the heavens. And it measures the time. When measure time was the sun, and no one can hide from its heat. That's opposite of tzinium pachim. You have cold and you have heat. Now, cold, you can protect yourself. You can put on clothes or whatever. But the heat is very, very hard to protect yourself. If you're exposed to heat in the desert somewhere, right? So I brought this picture. These are, by the way, if you pay close attention, these are tefillin wearing Japanese tribe. They put on tefillin. It's an amulet that resembles tefillin. It's the only ones that wear tefillin-like structure on their head. I forget their name, but a very interesting tribe. They say that the Japanese are lost tribes and whatever. So this is interesting. But they walk on coals. So that's tolerance. That's a level of tolerance. If you can walk on coals, I don't want to walk on coals. If you give me coals, and say I'll train you for 2 months until I have no desire, right, to burn my feet. Okay, it's interesting, but I don't. Some people go for it. They like that level of exposure. And Wim Hof is famously, has his own method, breathing method. And by the way, all of this is connected to breathing. All of this, like I mentioned before, your lungs, your surfactant, your fat intake, it all translates into breathing. And if you can't breathe, your diaphragm is not there, It says by Bnei Israel, when Moshe Rabbeinu comes to Egypt to redeem them, it says they couldn't speak to him. Mikotzer ruach ve'avodah kasha, from a shortness of breath and a heavy labor. A slave has a shortness of breath. What do you mean? His breath is shallow. He's not the person who boasts. He's not a person who breathes deeply. He's not the person who stands on the hill, right? So to come to talk to the slaves about freedom, you have a shortness of breath. They breathe shallow. Their diaphragm does not move too much. A person who wants to be free says, "Come and get me," and I'm breathing with a full chest, so to speak, right? So everything has to do with breath, the nutrition and everything. It's all connected. So the people who expose themselves to harsher conditions, right? If you ever been in the cold water, you have done cold plunge. I've done cold plunges, right? Let's say you come from the sauna and go to ice cold water. Yeah, stops everything, your heart, everything, right? It freezes, right? It's a shock to the system, right? Wim Hof does it as a matter of whatever. He just goes in, he regulates his own. You do it every day. Okay, very good. But he's a thermostat, right? He regulates his own body temperature. Right. So, but he trains people. He takes young men like you, and they put them in the forest somewhere, and they dip in the icy water. And he shows that anybody can condition themselves to bring themselves to that point where they can ignore cold, they block mentally, and the neurons respond to that, meaning it becomes a condition of the body. When the baby is born, the entire fight is about breath. When baby is born, the baby has to switch from umbilical breathing to a lung breathing. That's where the alveoli matter. That's where what mother ate for 9 months matters. Did this alveoli develop? You know how many babies are born premature and they have collapsed lungs and they can't breathe, and they have this very rapid breathing because they can't get oxygen? So Japanese invented surfactant, artificial surfactant from whales, and they inject it into both lungs, and the baby survives because they know the importance of fat. They invented it. They invented the method. They used to hunt whale, and they said, okay, if it helps for breathing, it will help the baby, and that's what they do. But all the gynecologists, when they're trying to pull the baby out, they're fighting against time. They're fighting for 2 minutes of time the baby has. Baby has 2 minutes. If they don't get him out in 2 minutes and baby doesn't take his or her first breath in 2 minutes, that's it, finished. Why? Because that switch has to happen. And while the baby is coming through, that's why they will break bones and they will dislocate shoulders and they will pull the baby out, or they will do C-section one way or the other in order for baby to breathe. It's really that's how important it is. Now, we as adults, we live in the environment of water. A person is born through water, a person dies through water. Most natural death is drowning. Lungs get filled up with water. How does person die? What is goses? Goses is the person whose lungs filled with water. He's drowning. And his breathing becomes more shallow, and then eventually the person passes. Right? So we are born through water, through amniotic fluid of the mother. We swim in the water. We're comfortable in the water. We're born into the world of oxygen. We have to take that breath. And then slowly, we go back to the water. We become that water, right? So that's very symbolic. On the spiritual level, it's very telling that we always have the fight between the water. It's two main components beside the earth and the fire, but you have water and air, right? And we constantly have this fight. Oxygen is oxidative. It's rusting, right? Water is lubricating. Yeah, it lubricates us back. But we can't breathe in water. We have to breathe oxygen. But there's the balancing act. So the fats, lipids, are on the periphery of where this exchange happens. Lipids are hydrophobic. They push back on water and allow oxygen to go through. Right? That's what your surfactant does. It pushes back on the water, right? Allows the oxygen to go through because blood is water. Blood is liquid. So how do you put oxygen when we take a breath, we'll put oxygen into the lungs. It has to perfuse through the alveoli into the blood, but not introduce any of the water into the lungs. That's why with pneumonia, it's a leakage into the lungs, and the bottom of the lungs get filled up with water. and the person is gargling and can't breathe, right? It has to clear out, right? Um,
So is wet saunas good?
yeah, wet saunas are good, excellent, and salt rooms. I always tell people to go to, it's called halo treatment or cloud treatment, which is a cloud of salt. Salt caves. Salt caves are very good because they clear your lungs. They clear your lungs and allow all the debris to come from the alveoli. Nothing. Okay, in your bronchs you have little hairs called cilia. Cilia hairs. They're responsible for pulling all the garbage out, and they mix it with mucosa, and that's what creates phlegm, and then you spit it out or cough it out, right? In the alveoli itself, in the sacs themselves, there's no cilia. Nothing can pull it out. So if something got in, and that's part of the problem in hospitals when they intubate, they allow direct access of all the bacteria and all the garbage in the hospital air is coming in into the patient's lungs without stopping at the mouth, right? Adenoids and glands, they stop all this debris coming into the mouth. We have a lot of moisture, so it traps it, doesn't allow it into the lungs. But when the lungs are exposed, a lot of people during COVID died through this exposure, not from COVID. They died from being intubated, right, for long periods of time, and then lungs get infected and they get pneumonia. It's actually called hospital-acquired pneumonia. It only happens in hospitals because its air is so dirty that anything that gets into lungs starts, clogging up the alveoli, and the salt cleans it out. So when the vapor of salt gets in, it foams it up, like the foam on the sea on the waves. You see that foam? That's from the salt, and it foams it up and pushes it out, and the person can breathe again. That's why Nevi'im, they were in the desert. Eliyahu Navi, when the desert, they were in the desert, and they stayed away from society because they were not accepted in society, and for some reason they lived, unconscionably longer. And they didn't know why they lived longer. And then they did some research and said that the people who live in deserts, they have a lot of salt in there, and that salt constantly ventilates their lungs and clears their lungs and keeps the dry air, circulating, and it's very good. So saunas, salt caves, any inhalation of eucalyptus. You have eucalyptus saunas and other things. Those are very, very helpful for the lungs. Expands everything, clears out everything. You can only breathe through lungs, so you have to protect your lungs. Yeah.
I heard you were talking about cortisol earlier. I know generally cortisol is not very.
It's just stress hormone.
Yeah.
It's stress.
How can you lower cortisol?
By not stressing. If you stress, well, you could use supplements, meaning that if you're missing certain nutrients, your body stresses naturally because it doesn't have something. Let's say if I have shakes, the people have shakes, right? They get a little bit nervous, all of a sudden they shake. They can't hold the cup, everything shakes. Why? Because the neurons are not supplied. So you have an axon that goes from your brain into your arm. It's a long axon. It's 40 whatever inches long, right? It's a one thing. It's covered with fat. It's covered with lipids. Yeah, you know that all the nerves are covered in fat. Otherwise, MS is really permeation of the layers that surround the spinal cord. When that gets permeated, because there's a deficiency in lipids surrounding it, then that damage happens to the spinal cord. It's a spot, but it can now disrupt a person's nervous system. Okay, so it's called myelination or myelin layer. Myelin is in the brain. Myelin is all in nerve coverings, and it has to be with fat. Fat primarily goes first to the lungs. There's a order in which it goes. It goes first to the lungs because breathing is the most important thing. Then it will go to protect nervous system, organs, filtration, and then goes already to steroids and other hormones to make other hormones. So there's an order in which the body utilizes fat or proteins or sugars. If you don't have enough of it, then it doesn't trickle down all the way to where it's needed. It primarily goes to breathing and basic function. But as soon as you see people that jittering, you ask them to hold out hands, and the hands are shaking. They're doing this, so you know that there's a problem because there's not enough supply of nerve supply to the area. or it's some kind of a congestion, or some kind of a damage, or a trauma, or anything like that. So that's why I wanted to mention that it was at the Tau. There's a Yad Shachadam, is abbreviation that stands for 7 liquids, for which you have to wash your hands according to the Torah. You have to wash your hands for 7 liquids. You have to wash your hands for fruit that's wet, and if it's a honey or water or dew, then you have to wash your hands. We don't today. We only do it for bread. A technical Sfaradim should wash their hands before consuming any wet fruit or wet vegetables. If you're touching was wet, because oil, shemen, oil, the olive oil, all of that. But what's the difference between dew and water? Can anybody tell me? Can any scientist tell me? What's the difference between dew and water?
Evaporated water.
No, the Torah considers 2 different liquids. Right? Ask any chemist. Is there a difference? It's H2O, H2O. What's the difference? So there's a little note here. Concentration of main ions in dew, 1.5 to 5.7 times higher than levels in rainwater. Meaning the rainwater is one type of bracha. Dew, tal, we say ten tal umatar, right? Right? We say Mashiach Baruch Hu Geshem, right? In tal umatar, livracha, we say tal umatar. What's a tal umatar? There's a matar, which is rain, and the tal is the dew. Tal shows up in the morning regardless whether there's rain or not. Every morning on the grass, you have dew. So that dew is substantially different than water from the thing. What I'm saying is that modern science and medicine does not understand this difference. When it says in the Torah that there is a difference, there is a difference. It will take another 300 years, but they'll understand that there is a difference and Torah was right. So when somebody says, "Oh, can you prove it? Is it scientific?" No, I don't care. If there's no proof, if the Torah says the creator of the world put it in the thing, and now we're discovering slowly that it's true. So it depends if it's a synthetic testosterone versus natural testosterone. It's a huge difference, and I know it. No matter what the man says who created that testosterone, saying that it's as good, it's not as good. It cannot be as good. When man creates is faulty. What God creates is full. That's why you have to put your you bet on God, not on men, right?
Basically, don't buy anything from Andrew Tate.
Why I did say cigars. You can buy cigars.
Oh, okay.
There's a omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9. There's also an interesting concept. I'm gonna finish with that. So generally, you have polysaturated, monounsaturated, and you have saturated fats. Saturated fats are animal fats, right? They're good fats, no matter what your doctor says. No matter what it says, oh, it's cholesterol, it's high cholesterol, whatever. Eat cholesterol that you want. If your body wants it, eat it. If you don't have any emergency situation or whatever that you can't eat certain things, or you're allergic to something, I'm not telling you eat peanut butter if you're allergic to peanuts. I'm saying
going to the hospital the end of the month because of the cholesterol. I'm going to.
It's not because of cholesterol.
St. Francis.
No, most cardiologists today agree that it's not because of cholesterol. It's because of the arterial inflammation that you have. If you didn't have arterial inflammation, cholesterol wouldn't need to be produced to patch up the cracks on the inside of your arteries. Because there's arterial inflammation, the body naturally produces LDL and HDL. They call it bad cholesterol. How could you say it's asur to call some God's creation bad? There's no such a thing as bad cholesterol. It serves its purpose. It patches up. It's like if there's a crack in the wall and a spackle it, right, to cover up the crack. Then I come and I scrape it off to smooth it out, right? So that's your LDL and HDL, right? Low density and high density lipid proteins, right? So one comes and patches up the crack so it doesn't bleed internally, and the other one comes and takes it away. But if you're constantly in stress, you're constantly in stressful situation, you're producing cortisol, you're stressing, your arteries are inflamed. There's an inflammatory process, and because of that, body constantly produces that what they call a bad cholesterol
From stress.
from stress, primarily from stress. So it's not you blaming a helper for the crime of cardiological
Well, my wife always
condition.
says you always always need somebody to blame, so that's one blame.
Doctors blame cholesterol for everything, and that's why they changed that. There's
Less stress,
less stress, better foods. You have to cleanse your system.
better food. Probably the food attracted me to have the high cholesterol. No?
Well, you can abuse foods, of course. If you eat junk or whatever, then you'll get junk. As a you need to have better diet. No more Chinese food. Okay.
Start ordering healthy.
Okay. Let me just mention this last point. So,
Smoke briskets.
That's how.
does anybody know the difference between omega-3, omega-6, omega-9? Okay.
Multiple of 3.
Multiple 3. So, animal fats are the carbon chains that are connected, all connected. There's no empty spots to anything to connect. Animals can move. Mammals can move, and therefore they can protect themselves. They can move into an environment that's suitable to them. A plant can't move. Plant grows where it grows, and therefore the plant has to come up with different ways to protecting itself. What are those ways? It creates poisons, right? Most plants are poisonous. You can only eat few plants. Most plants are poisonous. If you touch it, you eat it, it will poison you. Why? Because they need to protect themselves from insects, from animals. To otherwise, no tree is going to survive, right? The apple before it's ripe, if you eat it, it's going to give you stomachache. But once it's ripe, you can eat it, and it's good for you, right? So plants protect themselves, but because of that, the plants have different structure. They allow they allow attachment of other groups like OH group, hydroxyl group, and other groups into their carbon chain, and because of that, they are they're more dynamic as a result. But because of that, they're not as stable. So if you use seed oils or vegetable oils on a hot pan, it will disintegrate faster because they're not as tightly bound as the animal fat. Animal fat is more solid and it keeps its structure. That's why coconut oil is better than an animal like tallow is better than coconut oil because they keep their structure. Olive oil depends. The seed oils for sure not good, right? It goes rancid very fast. So difference between omega-3, 6, and 9. The 9 can be synthesized in your body. Oleic acid is synthesized by your body. But 3 and 6 you have to eat. You have to eat fish oil. You have to eat seeds, nuts, and other things. So omega-3 and 6 have to have a ratio on the right side here, 4-1 or less. If the ratio is greater, which is most Americans have a greater ratio because they eat a lot of chips and other things that are fried in oil and potato chips and whatever, the ratio is much greater, and therefore there's a oxidative stress that causes heart issues. It's not cholesterol. It's really the substances that you eat. So switch to omega-3s primarily. Omega-6s are always there. It's hard to escape them, but make sure that omega-3 is in the ratio of 4-1. One part omega-3, 4 parts or less of omega-6. And then you'll be fine. Meaning your triglycerides will be fine. You'll have less oxidative damage and stress. And that's a lot of times people don't understand. That's an inflammatory responses. Or
2 questions.
Yeah.
What's the normal testosterone rate for a male between 30 and 50?
There's no normal, like explained. Meaning doctors like to put everything in numbers. When you go give a blood, all of a sudden you see range. This is a normal range. Who says? They come up with these things. Somebody sits there and says, I think that's a normal range. Every discipline in medicine has their controlling body that comes up every year with what's normal blood pressure, what's normal cholesterol, what's normal whatever. They invent these things. There's no research on that. I mean, I've looked. Cholesterol used to be 250, now it's 190. Who came up with this? People who want to make money. Lower the cholesterol number that you have to hit, more Lipitor they're going to sell. Right? So I'm not a proponent of looking at of numbers. Do you feel okay? Do you have symptoms? If I have no symptoms. In blue zones, people live till 100 in Italy, in Corsica, and their cholesterol is 600. 600, you wouldn't right? It wouldn't be talking right now if you had 600, right? But they have 600, but it doesn't get stuck to the arteries. They eat Parmesan cheese and they eat meats and they eat whatever, but it doesn't get stuck to the arteries because they don't have no inflammation. There's nothing's broken. Yes, the blood is very thick, but it's flowing fine. It's a thick river flowing through very healthy arteries. And therefore they live to 100. The plasticity of their arteries is there. But we have brittle arteries. In America, people have brittle arteries. Huh? So arteriosclerosis is primary cause because you're not providing nitric oxide. People don't breathe through their nose. They don't breathe good oxygen. So don't have nitric oxide. It does not improve the walls of the arterial walls. They crack. They need cholesterol to fix them. And if it continues, is chronic inflammation. And that's what it is. We don't laugh as much. We don't joke as much. We don't sit in the... Israel has much greater, longevity. It's like number 7 in the world. Israel. Why? Because people have chevra. They sit around, drink coffee, smoke. They're all smokers. All blue zones are smokers. Heavy smokers. It's a complete affront to all medical science. They live to 100 and they smoke and they eat cheeses and they live, but they live happy life.
And the cha-cha.
And cha-cha, right? The Georgians that live up in the mountains, they don't care. They don't care what medical community says. They care for what provided them long life up until that point. They dance. They drink wine. They not in excess. I'm saying that obviously in certain moderation based on it. But their tolerance for wine, let's say, is greater than ours. Their tolerance for fats and other things is greater. But that's a indicator that health is not numbers. Health is not, you have to be over here in order to... Yes, statistically, but we're not statistics. A person is individual. If the person has symptoms, even if all the numbers are fine, you should be looking for where the problem is. He says, I'm not feeling well. Person says, I'm not feeling well. What should I do? So he's hypoxic. Most probably he's hypoxic, right? He doesn't get good perfusion. He's not feeling good. Oh, the numbers are fine. You know how many times they say, doctors say, blood test is fine. Person says, I'm not feeling fine. Boom, drops, he dies or whatever. What happened? Oh, aneurysm. Why? From what? Because the blood test doesn't measure that. In fact, blood test doesn't measure anything. It's a snapshot. It's a snapshot it's a Kodak moment of what your blood is currently. Anybody took a blood pressure at the doctor's office? Did you take a blood pressure? Or take a sugar? The glucose reading? It's fake. If I walked to the doctor's office, I went up the stairs and I drank a glass of water before at home, it's fake. It's not going to show any real numbers. I diluted my blood. My blood was 6 and something. I drank 2 glasses of water. I brought it to 4 and something. Doctor says, blood sugar is fine.
What about the AC1?
A1C. A1C is a glycation of hemoglobin. Hemoglobin glycation happens over 120 days. So that's a long haul, whatever. They take one measurement now, 3-4 months later, they take another measurement and they see an A1C, whatever. It's a better indicator for blood sugar than taking blood sugar now. I could have cheated. If I walked up the stairs, my blood sugar is going to be different. Then it's a problem. And they lie to you, meaning they have to see the difference. Every 120 days, your spleen will destroy all the glycated hemoglobin. They can't pass through the filtration. It's too fat. It gets glycated, sugar. So it can't pass through spleen. It will destroy it and turn it into heme and iron and send it to bile, right? But if you don't take the second measure, let's say time passed and I changed my diet and whatever, and I started eating better and exercising, and now my hemoglobin should be thinner and be able to squeeze through, and therefore my A1C should show a different result. If they don't do comparative thing, they're wasting your time. Because they don't want to do the second. If they do the second one and it shows that it's improved, then they don't have a client. They do a first one, it shows you're in trouble, and they'll give you some medication. Much easier.
One last question.
Yeah.
Fear, panic, anxiety, all this stuff. What does it come from?
So you have several chemicals involved, right? So fight or flight releases adrenaline versus cortisol. It will switch the body completely from digest, restore, right? which is parasympathetic to sympathetic. Fight. When you're fighting, when you're running, you're not hungry, you're not sleepy, you're not going to the bathroom, nothing, right? You're holding everything down until the stressful situation resolves. Panic and fear is what most people live in. Whether it's a job that scares them, family that scares them, something scares them. People go in the subways, they're in a hypoxic situation, there's crime, there's dealing with coworkers, dealing with family when you come home, the stressful situation in school with children. All of that keeps a person on stress. Under that situation, some people will lose their hair, like I did. Some people will have heart issues. Some people will. So you have to figure out what your stress is. What is killing the person is very important, because out of 12 systems, we have 1 or 2 weak systems. And if that system is constantly being bombarded, then we can't survive. Person is only sick as his sickest organ, right? If the kidney goes, but he has wonderful hair, beautiful hair. What does it matter, right? Okay, so his keratin is very good, right? Weakest link, right? Exactly. So all stressful situations need to be eliminated. A person cannot constantly live in the stress.
Easier said than done.
True, but that's why they retire cops at 50, because they know they're not going to live long. Cops think they know they got them by the actuaries, mathematicians sitting there calculating how long this guy is going to live after he retires, and they know he's not going to make it, right? Because he's been on the adrenaline job, right, constantly, so it wears him down. And when they retire him, they say, okay, in 10 years, 15 years, he's gone. He's going to do a couple of barbecues, watch TV, and right. And that's the issue, that people do not understand the basics of their weakness. Their
WNBC a couple of years ago made a test, a stress test. They took a person from upstate, Long Island, and they woke up in the morning with him. They tested his blood pressure till he comes to the office. They drove together. They wrote down what the blood pressure was. Coming home, another blood pressure. It went for a week. After a week, they told him, "Here, you won't make it till 45." With all the stress that he has
sure
going. So
it's a push and pull. It's a push and pull.
As the police.
So breathing, diaphragmatic breathing. Here, Barney will tell you about diaphragmatic breathing. A person sitting and simply breathing. There's something that's an autonomous nervous system, which means that automatically we breathe. We don't stop breathing when we sleep, right? But you can also activate your own breathing, meaning it's a half-half. If a half autonomous, half I can make myself breathe, right? So if I'm worried and my breathing is fast and I'm stressed about something, I could take 5 minutes off, 10 minutes off, go in a quiet room and breathe normally through my nose, quietly, bring myself down, adjust myself to the sympathetic level, lie down face first. My son is in chiropractic school, so when it says always lie down, it will decompress, it will calm you down, everything is when we sleep, you know why you sleep well? When you cover, you have to cover when you sleep, right? You want to put a cover on you because it's like a hug. Your nervous system understands a cover to be a hug. And when it's on you, your body drifts off to sleep. You don't have cold bothering your skin, whatever. It's a cover, right? So you need that cover. Also, your temperature drops. But a good sleep, full night's sleep, deep sleep. Yeah, I just went to Israel. 10 hours, couldn't sleep there. 10 hours on the way, couldn't sleep. I can't sleep on the plane. So I'm like a zombie, I'm walking at night. So, but my body is strong enough to provide me with deep pockets of sleep. What's called REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, when you're dreaming. If I'm dreaming, I know I'm getting deep sleep. So if I have 2 or 3 pockets of sleep, I can just sleep for 4 hours, 5 hours, and get good rest out of it. And some people sleep full night, wake up 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and they feel like they've been carrying loads all night. They wake up tired. And that's the big difference. And if you notice that that's what your body does to you, then you have to adjust there. That's your weakness.
The cold plunges do that for the brain.
Yeah, cold plunges
They're
is
saying that it's the only time other than REM sleep that your brain gets a boost of
sure, and also it's a stress, but endorphins are released, right. And your body is right. Brown fat, exactly.
In other words, now changing, the high cholesterol is from stress. Period.
High cholesterol is from inflammation. When your artery is on the inside, inflamed, it will come to fix it.
I believe it.
It's not an enemy, it's a friend. But if you constantly breaking